Libra, beautiful soul. If you've been waiting for a miracle, this is the moment. You didn't click on this video by accident. And no, this isn't just another horoscope reading. This is your divine reminder that the universe hasn't forgotten you, it's been preparing you. You see, miracles rarely arrive when we're strongest. They show up right when we think we can't go on. That's why this message is reaching you now. Because, Libra, you're not falling behind. You're being positioned for a last-minute breakthrough. And I don't say that lightly. In the next few minutes, you and I are going to walk through an unfolding truth, one that may feel personal, raw, even sacred. Because today, we aren't just talking about transits or retrogrades. We're talking about divine timing. We're talking about the moment where the universe stops being silent and finally speaks. Now let me ask you, Libra, have you been feeling like life has gone strangely quiet? Like your dreams are echoing into a void with no response? That eerie pause isn't abandonment, it's the hush before the heavens open. It's the breath before resurrection. And here's what's extraordinary: you, Libra, are the zodiac sign of balance, beauty, and justice. But when you've been the one carrying others, solving problems, staying graceful, who has been carrying you? Let me remind you of something sacred. God doesn't abandon the quiet hearts. Matthew 24 verse 13 says, "The one who endures to the end will be saved." And you, Libra, have endured long enough. So this message today, it's not a warning. It's not a test. It's a confirmation that you've been seen. That you're already standing at the edge of a divine shift. That you've made it through the lessons, and now grace is reaching for you. Let me take a moment to say this from the bottom of my heart: thank you. Thank you for being here. For every like, every comment, every time you subscribe or share this channel, you are building something bigger than just an audience. You're building spiritual momentum. You are the reason Zodiac Whisper Tarot is able to deliver transformational messages to people just like you. And yes, Libra, this one is especially for you. And believe me when I say this, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of today's reading, because what the universe is about to reveal is nothing short of miraculous. Now tell me, what energy pulled you here today? Was it hope? Exhaustion? A quiet knowing that this is exactly what your spirit needed? Let me know in the comments. Write it out. Confirm it. Declare it. Because when you speak it, you anchor it. This is your moment. Comment below to confirm that you're ready. Your miracle isn't coming someday. It's coming now, at the last moment, just when you needed it most. Let's begin. Sometimes, what looks like a delay is actually divine design in motion. It may not feel that way, especially when you've been showing up, doing the work, whispering affirmations into a sky that seems unresponsive. But, Libra, you of all signs understand balance. And balance doesn't come instantly, it's refined in stillness, calibrated in waiting. What you've been calling a delay is actually a sacred pause. One that's preparing the soil of your life for something you're not just wishing for, but finally ready to hold. This moment in your journey is not asking for more effort. It's asking for softer faith, the kind of faith that doesn't demand proof, but moves as if the blessing is already on its way. That's what makes this part of your reading so powerful. When we look at the energy of the Fool and Justice, two archetypes that resonate deeply with Libra, we're invited to trust the unknown with open hands, while believing that the scales will eventually tip in our favor. Not because we force them to, but because we've lived in integrity long enough for truth to return to us. The Fool isn't foolish, it's the bravest energy in the deck. It doesn't need to see the path to take the first step. It leaps not out of recklessness, but out of surrender. And Libra, surrender is not weakness, it is the highest form of trust. When paired with Justice, your very own ruling card, this combination is an omen that what you're stepping into is not just fair, it's destined. That the pieces will fall into place, but only once you stop trying to control how the story unfolds. There's an elegance in releasing expectations, and you know that better than anyone. Your air element gives you the gift of thought, analysis, and weighing both sides. But now, you're being guided beyond the mind into the realm of alignment. Because this isn't about making sense of the waiting. It's about discovering who you're becoming inside the wait. What if the delay wasn't withholding your miracle, but crafting the version of you strong enough to carry it? When we think about the law of attraction, we often focus on desire, on the energy of calling something in. But the deeper truth is, the universe doesn't just respond to what you want. It responds to what you're prepared to receive. And sometimes, preparation looks like sitting in uncertainty with grace. Like choosing peace before answers arrive. Like finding stability not in outcomes, but in your own inner alignment. There's a story I once heard about a man who waited years for a kidney transplant. He'd all but lost hope. But just days before he gave up the wait list, the perfect match came through, not from force, not from desperation, but from an unexpected place at an unexpected time. Sometimes life holds back the answer until we've learned how to hold it differently. Sometimes, the miracle doesn't happen after you let go, it happens because you let go. And so, this part of your journey, Libra, is not a punishment. It is protection. It's preparation. It's the universe gently inviting you to stop wrestling for what's already yours. Your job now is to align. Not hustle harder. Not beg louder. Just align. Breathe. Stay open. Allow your balance to return, not through control, but through trust. You don't need to see the ending to keep moving forward, you just need to remember, the blessing knows your name. And it's coming, not because you chased it, but because you stopped running from your own readiness. There's a quiet kind of transformation that doesn't announce itself with fireworks or applause, but with the slow and steady refining of your character through experiences that once felt like setbacks. Libra, when life feels unjust, when betrayal stings or disappointment lingers, it's easy to ask, why me? But maybe that question deserves a gentler lens. Maybe it's not about being punished, but being shaped. What if every challenge was never meant to break you, but to polish the brilliance that already lived inside you? You were not thrown into the fire to burn. You were placed there to be refined like gold. That's the deeper truth of karma, often misunderstood. Karma doesn't seek revenge. It seeks resolution. It's the law of energy return, yes, but more than that, it's the soul's curriculum. You're not being punished for something you did wrong, you're being invited to rise higher because of something you were born to become. The lessons aren't random. They're sacred, tailored to what your soul came here to master. When I reflect on the energies of temperance and strength, two powerful tarot archetypes, they offer us a mirror to our own evolution. Temperance speaks of integration, balance, and a kind of inner harmony that only comes after periods of deep imbalance. And strength, contrary to its name, isn't about brute force. It's about gentle power, the kind that tames storms with stillness, not struggle. Together, these cards suggest that the very wounds you're carrying may be the source of the wisdom you'll one day share with others. The pain, when alchemized, becomes your gift. Libra, your astrological calling is to uphold justice, peace, and emotional clarity in a world that often spins into chaos. You are the sacred scale. But how often have you felt like you're the one balancing everyone else's emotions while your own go unacknowledged? How often have you been the calm in someone else's storm, while quietly drowning in your own waves? You are so often the giver of peace, but this chapter is asking you to receive peace, too. Not as a reward, but as a right. Sometimes life brings people into your path who hurt you not because you deserve the pain, but because their role was to crack open the parts of you that had forgotten their strength. These moments don't define you, but they do refine you. The betrayal, the rejection, the silence, none of it means you failed. On the contrary, it means you've been chosen to learn the kind of love and self-trust that can only be earned through lived experience. And when you choose to rise anyway, not bitter, not closed off, but softened and wiser, you become an anchor for others who are still learning how to rise. It's easy to believe we must protect ourselves at all costs after we've been hurt. But what if the true freedom comes not from guarding your heart, but from releasing the weight of what or who no longer aligns with your growth? Sometimes it's not about fixing the broken pieces, but learning how to walk forward with a new kind of wholeness. Not in spite of what happened, but because of it. So take a breath with me now. Just one slow, intentional. And in that breath, I want you to imagine the person or moment that caused you pain. See it clearly. Acknowledge it, not to relive it, but to finally set it down. Then, gently, offer it light. Not because they deserve your forgiveness, but because you deserve your freedom. Growth is never clean or easy. But you are not here for an easy life. You're here for a meaningful one. And sometimes, the most meaningful chapters are born from the very pages we once wanted to skip. You haven't failed, Libra. You've been forged. And now, you're ready to fly. There's something undeniably delicate about relationships that have broken open our hearts. Libra, with your Venusian sensitivity and natural desire for harmony, you tend to pour love with the hope that it will balance the equation, that your kindness can fix what's been frayed. But what happens when love isn't returned in the way you gave it? What happens when someone you once trusted becomes the very reason you question your worth? This part of your journey asks not just for reflection, but for reclamation, not just of a relationship, but of your relationship with yourself. The appearance of the Two of Cups alongside the Three of Swords and the Star in your reading is not random. It reveals a profound arc: the beauty of connection, the wound of heartbreak, and the light of renewal. These cards together speak to a soul contract that has tested you deeply. Maybe it was a romantic partner, a close friend, or even a family member. Someone whose presence once felt like home until it didn't. And now, somewhere within their silence, or in their unexpected return, there's a quiet invitation, not necessarily to reconcile, but to remember what you learned about your own value when they left. Sometimes, people come back into our lives after a long absence, carrying apologies, realizations, or simply the weight of their own regret. And while that can be healing to witness, it doesn't always mean they're meant to re-enter your sacred space. Not everyone who returns has transformed, and not everyone who says they've changed is ready to match the growth you've earned in their absence. That's why discernment is so important now. The universe isn't testing you with this return, it's offering you a choice. A chance to see how far you've come. To choose yourself this time, even if your heart still remembers the softness you once shared. In astrology, Libra is the sign of partnership, yes, but also of justice. You strive for mutual respect and equality, and that applies to love too. Love without balance becomes sacrifice. Love without safety becomes confusion. And love without self-awareness becomes a mirror of old wounds. So this chapter isn't about whether they come back. It's about whether you have come back to yourself. To the truth of who you are. To the inner strength that no longer needs outside validation. In numerology, the number 6 represents love, healing, compassion, and responsibility. But not just toward others, toward yourself. This is the time to practice what I call compassionate clarity. It means you can wish someone well, even love them from afar, without reopening a door that your peace has already walked through. And it also means recognizing when someone has truly changed, when their energy aligns with their words, and letting your intuition guide you, not your nostalgia. One of the most powerful exercises during moments like this is writing a letter you never intend to send. Speak from your heart. Say the things you held back. Allow the emotions to surface, all of them. Then, when you're ready, release it. Tear it up. Burn it. Let the act itself become symbolic of your healing. Not to erase the memory, but to remove its grip on your heart. And if you still carry guilt, shame, or the weight of wondering what could have been, practice self-compassion like a ritual. Remind yourself daily, I did my best with what I knew at the time. And that was enough. Libra, not every love is meant to last. But every love teaches. And some of the greatest awakenings come not from who stayed, but from who left and what they left you to discover. This is your invitation to stand at the threshold with open eyes. To feel everything, and still choose peace. Because sometimes, closure isn't a conversation. Sometimes, closure is the moment you stop asking why. And start trusting that your heart knows where it's safe to land. There's a quiet shift that happens when you realize abundance is not something you chase, it's something you allow. Libra, your natural grace and poise have always made you someone who works hard to create beauty, harmony, and success in the world around you. But this part of your journey isn't asking you to push harder. It's asking you to soften. Not to try more, but to trust more. And that's the true essence of this chapter, not striving, but receiving. The Ace of Pentacles and the Six of Wands together form a beautiful reminder that new opportunities, financial upgrades, and long-awaited recognition are not only possible, they're already on their way. The Ace of Pentacles is the seed of tangible blessings, a divine yes to your readiness to receive. The Six of Wands adds celebration and victory to the picture, suggesting that something you've quietly worked toward, maybe even sacrificed for, is now coming full circle in your favor. Astrologically, the current influences from the full moon and Venus, your ruling planet, are creating energetic openings in your 2nd and 10th houses, the zones of value, money, career, and public recognition. These are not random transits. They're aligned activations. And what they're saying is this: the door is open. But it only stays open if you believe you're worthy enough to walk through it without guilt, without over-explaining, without shrinking. This is where the real work begins, not in hustling for results, but in rewriting your internal script around money, effort, and success. Many of us, especially those who are empathetic or spiritually sensitive, carry unconscious beliefs that abundance must be earned through suffering. That we must give until we're empty before we deserve to receive. But that's not truth, that's a trauma-based model of worth. And it's one the universe is gently inviting you to release. Imagine, just for a moment, that you didn't have to work harder to earn more. What if the next financial breakthrough, career shift, or creative opportunity wasn't about doing more, but about saying yes more easily? About removing the energetic blocks that tell you you're not quite ready or not quite enough to receive what's already circling you. One powerful self-help practice this week is to begin a journal specifically for your financial and energetic patterns. Not a budget spreadsheet, a safe space where you reflect on your emotional relationship with money. What did you learn about wealth growing up? What emotions rise when you receive money versus when you spend it? And most importantly, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be supported, truly supported, without guilt or apology? This week, I also encourage you to bring a bit of ritual into your daily rhythm. Try meditating with the phrase, "I am worthy of abundance," without having to sacrifice my well-being. You don't have to sit for an hour. Just a few conscious breaths while placing your hand over your heart is enough to shift your field. And if you can, wear or visualize the color emerald green, a powerful frequency for attracting abundance and shielding your energy from scarcity-based interference. You've done enough, Libra. Truly. The path forward isn't about earning more through force, it's about remembering that you were already chosen to receive. Not just because you've worked for it, but because you're ready to embody it without resistance. The opportunity, the recognition, the financial flow, it's all waiting at the door. You don't need to knock. Just open it and let it in. Sometimes, the most sacred calling isn't about doing something grand, it's simply about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Libra, there's a part of you that has always longed for beauty, connection, meaning, but somewhere along the way, you may have traded those desires for what was practical, what was expected, or what was safe. And while there is honor and responsibility, there is also quiet sorrow in silencing the parts of you that once made you feel alive. When the Hermit and the Page of Wands come together in a reading, it speaks to a reunion between wisdom and wonder. The Hermit, often misunderstood, doesn't represent isolation, it represents introspection, soul-searching, and inner illumination. It's that season in life when we stop reaching outward for approval and begin listening inward for purpose. Meanwhile, the Page of Wands carries the spark of adventure, the creativity of a curious mind, and the fire of untamed expression. Together, these cards remind you that the voice you've been waiting to hear is your own, and it's time to let it speak again. Maybe you once loved to write, but stopped because you were told it wasn't practical. Maybe you once danced, or painted, or dreamed of traveling, but you were made to believe those things were indulgent. Maybe you laughed louder, loved deeper, or believed in magic more freely. Until someone taught you that growing up meant letting go. But what if that wasn't true? What if spiritual maturity isn't about abandoning your wonder, but reclaiming it with wisdom? There's a passage that encourages us to return to the heart of a child, not in naivety, but in openness. In curiosity. In the fearless trust that what we love is valid simply because it moves us. Think about that for a moment. What once made you feel alive before life got heavy, What would you create if no one were watching? What dream would you breathe life into if you weren't afraid of failing or being judged? These aren't rhetorical questions, they are invitations. Your soul is whispering through these desires. They are not distractions. They are directions. And maybe you're thinking it's too late, or that too much has passed, or that it's no longer realistic. But I want to tell you something that someone once told me: your gift doesn't have an expiration date. I've known people who rediscovered their passion in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, not to impress anyone, not to build a career, but to return home to themselves. One woman I met began painting again after 40 years of corporate life. Her hands shook with doubt at first. But what flowed out of her brush were colors her soul had been holding in silence for decades. That became her ministry. Her medicine. Her miracle. So, Libra, this part of your journey isn't about starting over. It's about coming back. Not to who you were, but to what made you feel most like you. The passion you set aside isn't gone, it's waiting patiently. And all it takes is one small step a day to rebuild the bridge. Write a few lines. Sing softly while you wash dishes. Sketch something that no one ever needs to see. It's not the perfection of the act that matters, it's the permission you give yourself to feel lit up again. Even if you've failed before, even if something didn't work out the way you hoped, that wasn't failure. That was part of the curriculum. What you gained in those moments was strength, clarity, experience. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from depth. So give yourself grace. Give yourself permission. And give yourself back the joy of doing what makes you feel fully, unapologetically alive. Your soul's mission isn't hiding. It's humming. And the moment you begin again, even in the smallest way, is the moment everything starts to shift. When all is said and felt, Libra, I want you to take one more breath with me. Just one. Soft, unforced. Let it remind you that you are not behind, not forgotten, and not broken. You were never meant to sprint through healing or prove your worth through exhaustion. The reason things have taken time isn't because you were being denied, it's because something sacred was being prepared through you, within you, and for you. You haven't missed your miracle. You've been moving toward it all along, whether you realized it or not. There's a quiet truth the universe whispers to those who wait with grace: the miracle never comes late. It arrives in the exact moment you finally release your last ounce of fear. And if that speaks to you, if something in your heart softens when you hear it, then maybe you've already begun. What would shift for you if you stopped chasing the version of yourself that hustles for love, validation, or approval, and instead stepped into the one who already deserves it all? What if this wasn't about effort anymore, but alignment? Not about perfection, but permission? Now is the time to create space for the new. This doesn't require you to change everything overnight. It begins with small, sacred acts of readiness. Clear one corner of your home, not just to tidy, but to energetically invite something new. Light a candle, clean your altar, donate what no longer resonates. Even the act of sweeping a floor with intention can open portals you can't yet see. Then, write. Write down the one thing you've always wanted to do, the idea that lingers, that pulls at your soul when the world is quiet. You don't need to explain it. You just need to witness it. Let it live on paper first, then in breath, then in action. And when you feel ready, Look in the mirror not to judge or analyze but to softly say, I am ready. Because you are. And saying it out loud begins to call everything home. Remember, you are not just waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle. The moment you decide to believe in your own light, your own path, and your own rhythm, that's when the doors open. That's when synchronicity begins to stir. Not because you forced it, but because you finally matched its frequency. I hope this message reminded you of your power, your softness, your beauty, and your ability to begin again without shame. From this moment forward, you get to live in full color. Not because someone gave you permission, but because you decided you're worthy of your own radiance. If something in today's message touched your heart, I invite you to comment 777 below a number of spiritual alignment and divine confirmation. What are you releasing? What are you ready to receive? Tell me in the comments so the universe can hear it too. Because when you name it, you claim it. And if you felt held, seen, or inspired today, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone you care about. Let this light ripple outward. You never know who needs this message right now, and you could be the reason they remember their own spark. Thank you, truly, for spending this time with me. Your presence here means more than you know. Every view, every comment, every bit of energy you offer helps this space grow, not just as a channel, but as a sanctuary for awakening souls. This is Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where your soul is always heard, always honored, and always guided with compassion, clarity, and love. This isn't just another horoscope. This is your sacred return to yourself. And I'm so honored to walk this part of the path with you.